Hello, subscribers. This is yours truly, JBlue68. Today is July 24th, Wednesday, and that day is finally here. It is comic book night. What an exciting night. And I've been seeing all kinds of posts all over YouTube talking about the release of that book that we've been talking about for quite some time now. I've been talking about quite some time now. I've showed previews in some of my previous videos of the coming and the release of Powers of X House of 10, where the first book of that series is finally out, and I have it. I've actually started reading it, and oh my goodness, it actually is a game changer. But before we get into that, well, one thing I've said before is that I have a vast X-Men collection, and I just want to show that really quick. And then we're going to get into this comic book haul. This is not me bragging, but yes, I have a vast X-Men comic book collection. I'm just going to show you some of those books real quick. Let's move this camera around here. And some of these books you've probably seen before. This are when I showed in a previous haul. This is the facsimile, I have the word right now, of X-Men, very first issue. This is a facsimile release of the very first issue of the X-Men, all the way up to Age of X-Men, which was just released this year. And this is Age of X-Men Alpha. Love that cover there. But I'm going to show you something else here. Here I have my X-Men Gold short box and my X-Men Blue short box. Okay. Here's my X-Men House of X short box. Now this box is completely empty, but pretty soon it won't be. And sitting on top of there, I have this gorgeous poster, which I think I showed in a previous video too. But I'm going to move this stuff out of the way temporarily so that you can see what's inside box number 1, which is again X-Men Gold. Okay, let's open that up here. Look at all that. Look at all those beauties. That's piles and piles of X-Men comics. We have Death of X-Men. That's Prince there. Not trying to show that again. Amazing X-Men. X-Men and Angel. The Magneto series. Hope. X-Men First Class. See that? And there are the X-Men Gold books. All of them. That's a completed series too. X-Men Gold. I'm not going to dig all the way down there, but there's a lot of books in there, and that's just one box. Here's X-Men Blue. Second box, you can see. Wasn't exaggerating. It's X-Men Prime. All the X-Men Blue books. Look at all that. Look at that. Look at that. X-Men Legacy. Just X-Men. All the titles. I know a lot of guys brag about having omnibuses and stuff like that of the X-Men. But see, when you collect or can collect the individual copies, you don't have to buy the omnibuses necessarily. You know, there's nothing wrong with buying them, but you know. I prefer the individual covers most of the time, you know, to give homage and recognition to the individual artists. It's X-Men Iceman again. This is from the X-Men Origins series, Gambit. That's a nice cover there. Alright, let's see. Yeah. A lot of X-Men stuff, man. A lot of X-Men books. So this isn't even half of my X-Men collection. Not at all. I have far more than this. that I could show, but I'm not going to show tonight because we got to get into this haul. I just got off work a little while ago, and like I said, I started reading the book itself, and it's a trip, but we'll get into that in a moment. Let's just set this back down here. And again, we're going to get into this haul. Let's see. Get that adjusted properly. There we go. And I actually started reading this book too. This is The History of the Marvel Universe, book number 1, written by Mark Waid, drawn with artwork by Javier Rodriguez and Alvaro Lopez. And about a week ago in one of my comic book hauls, I showed that Marvel released their next Young Guns issue, which featured all of their hottest and latest artists, and Javier Rodriguez was one of the artists. And from what I've seen in this book so far, it is truly fascinating. I can't wait to actually finish it up. Again, I just started reading it tonight because, again, I just got off work a little while ago. But yeah, History of the Marvel Universe, book number 1. One of my picks of the week, definitely. From what I've seen so far, I'm definitely liking it. And I was waiting for this book and anxious for it to come out. Next up, coming hot off of the pages of War of the Realms. Just did a video on that a day ago where I did a review of War of the Realms, and I talked about Jane Foster and how she's become the Valkyrie. All the Valkyrie were killed in the battle with Malekith, and she inherited the power of the Valkyrie. Now, some may say, including myself, why would they have her come back and inherit the power of the Valkyrie when Jane Foster was actually once Thor? You know, that kind of seems taking a step backwards, because the power of Thor is, of course, is more powerful than the power of the Valkyrie. But I think for the sake of comic stories, they wanted to put Thor back on the mantle of being worthy to hold Mjolnir again. You know, because a lot of fans were not really happy with Thor being a woman and all that, and them making him unworthy, blah, 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 blah. You know, so to satisfy fans, which is something that Marvel in most comic books try to do, but it's hard to please people, because you're never going to be able to please people no matter what, you know. But to put Thor back into his rightful place and to satisfy fans, they took the power of Thor away from Jane Foster, and she was also suffering from cancer in those stories, and they gave it back to Thor. So now Jane Foster has inherited the power of the Valkyrie, and to find out more of that, you should read War of the Realms, and that's the significance of that story. Like I said, I did like the story. It did have some actually very significant plot points, and this is one of the stories that comes out of that main arc. Okay, so that's Valkyrie number 1. And also, I did announce that at the San Diego Comic-Con that Natalie Portman will actually be returning back to the Thor franchise, and she will become Thor, just like the character was at one point in the comic books. So that may sound confusing, but read the books and you won't be confused. Next up is Guardians of the Galaxy number 7, written by Donny Cates. He's done a really good job with this series, and this one I think is supposed to signify the death of Rocket Raccoon. So that'll be interesting to read. Book number 7, Donny Cates, Guardians of the Galaxy. Book number 10, that's a beautiful cover there. Shuri. Book number 10, Shuri. And I honestly don't know what's going on completely in this story, because I haven't been reading it lately, but I have all the books, thank goodness. So when I finally actually decide to sit down and read them, I won't miss a beat, because I'll be completely up to date, at least up to date to book number 10. But here we are, book number 10 of Shuri. Very nice artwork there. And then we get into another story that comes from War of the Realms. And I did a video on this one the other day when I was talking. I did a video on War of the Realms, and I actually was talking about the new agents of Atlas. And this is one of the characters from Agents of Atlas, Swordmaster. So that artwork there looks very much like, what do you call it, Japanime. Very different type of artwork for a Marvel comic. Can't wait to read it. But that's Swordmaster book number 1. Yeah. So that should be interesting to read. And here we get into the Marvel True Believers. I only have one True Believers book. I was supposed to get 2. There's one I'm missing, and that unfortunately didn't make it into my haul tonight. And these, of course, are all Marvel comics. But this is Absolute Carnage Mania with Venom on the cover there. As we get ready to head into Absolute Carnage, which will be the next major Marvel story. In about 2 more weeks, I think, August the 7th. And here is, well, actually, I'm not going to show this one next. Show this one, the facsimile edition of the special double-size issue of X-Men, Phoenix Must Die. And this story, as well as the other facsimile editions of the X-Men, which have come out this month, play an important role in what is about to occur in this story here. And this is a throwback issue, of course. House of X. I got it. Yeah, so House of X is finally here. Power of 10 comes out next week. I think that's going to be July the 31st, which will be the last Comic Book Wednesday of this month. So I've read some of this book so far, and they say that it would be a game changer, and I can tell you it is. I don't want to give away too much, but I can tell you there's what do you want to call it, a world level event that is going on between Homo sapiens and Homo superior that is going to change things very much, as well as, well, I don't want to give anything away. And I haven't actually finished the book anyway, so it's nothing much I can give away. But so far, what I've read, honestly, is very intriguing. I might have to go back and read it again from the beginning. There's a lot going on here, and it's happening very quickly. I kind of get the gist of the cover of the story, but the cover here, beautifully drawn by, I think it's Pepe Larraz, also from Marvel's Young Guns, kind of gives you a clue to what is going on. And of course, the artwork from the book also reflects the artwork on the short box. And that's a nice short box, a good way of maintaining your comic books. Good way of maintaining your comic books is to buy short boxes. All right. But yet, so I don't want to give anything away. There's been plenty of YouTube coverage on this book, where some guys are talking about the story, and I don't think that's necessarily cool to do because everyone hasn't had a chance to buy it yet or even read it yet, and like me, like I said, just got off work, so I'm a little tired. But I am going to finish this one book tonight before I lay down and call it quits for the day. And I'll give a full review of this book as well as Powers of Powers of 10 comes out next week. But I'm told that book number 2 of this particular book, because it's a 2-part series. Again, there's House of 10, Powers of X, House of 10. And just to tell you, give you a description or facts of what this series is about. Again, there's 2 different books. House of X and Powers of 10. Jonathan Hickman is introducing the next era of the X-Men, and the starting point for this experience is House of 10. This book here, and Powers of X series, which comes out, like I said, next week. These stories will be the foundation for all X-Men stories over the next several years, and return the X-Men to their rightful, prominent position in the Marvel Universe. What is House of X about? It's a story about a pivotal month in the history of the X-Men where everything changes for mutants on Earth. We can't, and I can't tell more than that, because again, I've just started reading the story itself. And all 6 books, of course, are not out yet. Powers of X is a story about the unknown secret history of mutants in the Marvel Universe. Which series is the main book? Both of them are. The grammar of the sentence may be incorrect. The answer is not. Each series is equally important, as you need to read about both to get the full story. You have to read both books to get the full story. And as you delve further into each series, you'll see how they are connected. What series should you read? Or which series should you read? Well, that goes back to what I just said. A series of reveals and revelations will come from both House of X and Powers of 10, and vice versa. Makes you reinterpret the issue you previously read, and then obviously at the end they crash together in a way that propels us forward into a new a new X universe. And then what happens after the House of X and Powers of 10 series, or House of 10 Powers of X series? I don't know. There's going to be to my understanding, there'll be a long-term planned event, and this is going to be the direction that the books will go for the next several years, as I indicated earlier. The conclusion of House of 10 and Powers of X will be launching an entire new universe of X books. Some will be traditional. Some will carry through on ideas presented in House of 10 and Powers of X, and some books are completely new concepts. Jonathan Hickman will be writing the ongoing flagship X book, but we'll see how long that'll last. You know, I read where somebody said he'll be off the books and they'll hire some Joe Schmo, to continue writing the stories. But hey, we'll see. I don't know. That depends on how dedicated he is to the series, as well as doing his own solo projects as a comic book writer. And that information came off of the back of the poster here that I was reading to you. That's the benefit of getting this poster. It actually had a little Q&A on the back, so I thought that was pretty cool. So, all right, that's it. That's all, y'all. I just wanted to do a quick comic book haul. My little bragging rights about my X-Men comics and how many I have, yada 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 yada. And that I finally got the book. I'm about to sit down and read it in its entirety over dinner. I hope you all like this video. Please hit the like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can get videos like this in your feed whenever I drop them. And Powers of X, House of 10. Get this book at your local comic book shop. I hope you enjoyed the read if you've already read it. If you haven't, again, get this book. It is a hot item and definitely going to be a game changer in the X-Men and Marvel comic book universe. All right, that's it. That's all, y'all. Peace, love, and hair grease.